Telegram.
Well, here we are. Week 1 of the 2019 football season.
Woohoo!
And this marks the first podcast of our third full season of the Temple Day Telegram Sports Podcast. Can you believe it, guys?
Back by popular non-demand.
No, there was some demand.
Was there?
Yeah.
There's a few people.
Our immediate family was wondering when we were going to do this again.
Grandma kept asking, so,
Yeah. So here we are. We're back. We're ready to go. Everyone's always in a good mood, right before the season starts. Everyone's got high hopes, big dreams.
I've got a lot of high hopes.
Yes.
Been working hard,
Oh, very hard.
showing up early, staying late.
Yes. And to produce the preview sections, which were in the last 3 editions of the Temple Day Telegram, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
good stuff.
So if you haven't purchased those newspapers, please do. Read up. It's great stuff. And we're going to talk about some of it over the next 3 hours in this podcast. No, it won't be 3 hours.
Ooh, I didn't sign up for 3
No,
hours.
it won't be 3 hours. Well,
It will only seem like it.
yeah.
We should go ahead and say who's here again.
Yeah, this is Josh Weaver. I started talking, and then everyone else started talking too, and the rest of the people who were talking can now introduce themselves.
I'm Marcus.
Daniel.
Greg Willie.
All right, there we are.
Oh, last names. Are we? Oh.
Really, I've got 2 first
The
names.
Greg Willie.
And we are gathered around the same table as we were the last time we talked to you, which
Nope.
was... When
Nope.
was that?
November.
November.
No, maybe it was.
Yeah.
Right after Thanksgiving?
I'm pretty sure. I think maybe we didn't do one after by district.
Maybe not. Anyway,
We had a few early exits last
yes.
year.
Which we'll talk about. Some of these teams are out for redemption, I think, when it comes to the playoffs, but that's a long way away. We have one game on the docket Thursday. It's going to kick off everything. Academy and Rogers, big rivalry at Mary Hardin Baylor.
Tradition now on Thursday nights
Yes.
at UMHB.
Yes, always a good setting. Other Week 1 matchups. Temple at Round Rock Cedar Ridge. Belton at Austin Westlake. 2 road games for our big schools against 2 good teams. That'll be interesting.
Some good mileage right off the bat.
Yes, yeah, I'll be turning that in. Reimbursement. Let's see, we also have Gatesville at Midlothian Heritage, Lampasas at Joshua, Troy versus Salado, another neutral site game. That one's at UMHB as well. Mejia at Cameron Yo, Gerald at Whitney, Giddings at Rockdale. That's a good matchup there. Bruceville Eddy at Rio Vista, Moody at Holland, a couple of local teams going at it. Rosebud Lot at Anderson Shiro.
Owls.
Yes. Hubbard at Bartlett, Snook at Granger. Our sports editor Eric Drennan pointed that one out. A couple of teams that had really good seasons last year going out in Week 1.
Yeah.
Penelope at Buckholtz. And Schertz John Paul II at Central Texas Christian. Holy Trinity Catholic with the rare Week 1 idle week.
That's
So they're going to have to wait.
You
a
figure
few more
Pope
days
John
to get
Paul
going.
II would have been a good opponent for Holy Trinity.
Yeah, but they don't want to fight each other, do they? I don't think so.
You don't want to have to throw a Hail Mary this early in the
No,
season.
True.
no. So that's what's coming up this week. A lot of good stuff. Should we start with the game that's tomorrow? The first game?
Yeah.
Might as
do
well,
it.
right?
Let's do it.
Academy and Rogers.
And by the time you're listening to this, it's probably today.
right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
How the game may already be over. Depends on when you set the-
Yeah, you could be listening to it next Monday, which would mean all these games would be over. So,
In which case you're just thinking, God, these idiots had no idea what was going on.
yeah. Who was at that game last year? Daniel, you were, right?
I was.
Rogers snapped a, what was it, a 4-game?
4 games, yeah. 4 games.
This game is where Daniel got his feet wet as a high school football reporter for the
Yeah.
Telegram. Just covered this side by side with Daniel.
That is
2
true.
years
Yeah.
ago.
I would not be
So
where
this
I
is your
am
third-
today without Greg
This
Willie.
is your third straight game.
Sorry
covering
about
that, huh?
It is, yeah. It's always a good one, great one to start off the season at UMHB. Very few places for you to ask, for a bigger stadium, bigger stage around here. But yeah, it's always a good one. Last year, pretty good game overall. Rogers, I think, really kind of surprised Academy. Academy had the new head coach in Paul Williams, so a few things to kind of work out there. But Charlie Roten has continuously gotten the Eagles to play better and better each year he's been there. And last year they made the playoffs, and that was a good opening win for them.
And you mentioned Rogers making the playoffs. Academy made the playoffs also, and both of these teams, different divisions in 3A, but I think they're both looking to kind of continue this role that they're on, improve upon it. A few more wins, just fare better in each of their districts, and then once they get to the playoffs, make a bit of a run. They both feel good about where they're at right now, coming into the
Academy, of course, is kind of in the district of death with where you got the Camerons and Rockdales and Troy coming up in the world. So
nice.
If you just make the playoffs out of that district, you've done something right, regardless.
Oh, definitely.
Nice, easy district there.
Yeah, no sweat.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, should be a good game Thursday night, tonight, whichever you want to call it. But moving on to the bigger schools, and we'll get back to District 10 3A1 you mentioned with Yo and Troy and Rockdale. That's obviously going to be contentious once again. But Temple, after an 8-3 season, which if probably thought was going to be better than 8-3 when they started 8-0, but opening up against a very good opponent, Cedar Ridge. I think Temple ran into a Round Rock Cedar Ridge team last year that was, if you want to use rebuilding, I guess maybe, and Temple handled that game pretty well.
But, that was the Quentin Johnston coming out party with 4 touchdowns.
But it might be a little bit of a roles reversed.
Right. Like you read in the Temple notebook, of course, in Thursday's paper, that last year it was Cedar Ridge that only had one defensive starter returning, so they're very young on that side, and Temple really exploded that young defense. Well, this year it's the opposite because now Cedar Ridge is experienced on defense, and Temple only has one returning starter, Roman Jackson, the cornerback. Friday's feature story subject, of course.
Great.
And when you're the only returning starter, you get a feature. That's just how it is. But
shameless plug.
It's going to be interesting for Temple. I think early, it's really hard to say how good this team will end up being or how they'll look right off the bat because in another interesting note, 2 freshmen are going to start on defense, which Scott Stewart, the head coach, says he's never even used a freshman in a key role at any point in 20 years of coaching, and now they've decided to start 2 of them, Mikhail Harrison-Pilot at safety and linebacker Torian York. They both have great, pedigrees. Apparently they've been really good middle school players, but this is still varsity 6A football. They're, I don't know if they're 14 or 15 yet, but they looked okay in the scrimmage against College Station. But he knows they're going to make some mistakes, but I think he thinks they're at least as talented as anyone else he has, and why not give them the experience now and let them grow into the roles they're eventually going to be in. There's a sophomore, Eric Shorter, starting on defense, so they're going to be young, and they have to stop this kid, Chris Deuce Vaughn, the running back who's committed to Kansas State, 5'7", 175, real shifty, almost 2,000 yards last year, 20 touchdowns. So that'll tell the tale. If Temple can contain that guy, they got the offensive weapons to put up points, but it's just, can the defense hang early and at least give Temple a chance to win this tough road game?
Well, I kind of, it seems with Temple this year, there are a few more unknowns than in years past. I mean, you mentioned, the offensive weapons, but that's, a little bit of an unknown too, because, they have a couple playmakers on that side of the ball, but who's going to get it to them? That's kind of unproven right now.
Totally unproven.
It's certainly a different feel, and, it's almost like a carryover of that playoff game.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, what are we dealing with now?
You got a new quarterback in Vance Willis, which, the past couple years you had those big, tall pocket passers, T.J. Rumfield and Jared Wiley, and they were just one-year starters at quarterback too. Now you got a senior in Vance Willis. He's, instead of being 6'4", 6'6", like the last 2 guys, he's like 5'9", but he's real quick and he wants to run, and he'll put his shoulder down and run over you. The question is, can he throw the ball well enough to Johnston, Montavian Carlisle, A.J. McDuffie's a newcomer to the starting lineup. So they got the weapons, but they have a pretty good offensive line too, although they lost one of their projected guys to an ACL last week. But but the left side of the line is pretty fierce from center on over. It's a lot of beef. So
Yeah.
they'll run Anthony Jackson and Samari Howard and Vance Willis behind those big guys, but we'll see how well Willis throws to keep the defenses honest as the year goes on.
And like last year, there's 2 non-district games to get things kind of started
Yeah.
to be figured out before district starts.
And one note that's interesting, Temple has this 7-year streak of winning season openers on the line, and this is going to be tough to make it 8. I mean, I think Temple's got a real shot to win, but Cedar Ridge is a very solid team.
Right.
I mean, 9-3 last year, state semifinalists the year before. They're solid. There's not many weaknesses that you can find. They're just very well coached and tough to beat at their place. So
Yeah,
we'll
well,
see.
contrary to Temple's season opening success, Belton hasn't won an opener since 2015, and they're looking to break that streak, which, like Temple, Belton's got a tough task coming up Friday night against Westlake, number 7 in the preseason polls, for whatever that's worth. But, Westlake's obviously going to be very good once again. But Belton, like Temple, has a lot of questions coming into this year. It's kind of a different feel as well. I mean, they're coming off another playoff qualifying season. They finished 7-4, but they were knocked out in the first round. Coach Sam Skidmore's coming into his 3rd year as head coach, but it's going to be, as everyone knows now, his last year coaching. He was promoted to athletic director, so that's going to take him off the sideline. So that's kind of, I wouldn't say hanging over Belton, but it's there. Something they're going to be dealing with. They have a lot of unknowns on both sides of the ball. I mean, they're returning quarterback Ruben Jimenez, who showed signs that he can be really good as a sophomore last year, filling in late in the season after an injury to Connor Carruthers. He's got a returning running back in DeMonte Smith and a good offensive line, experienced offensive line. I think six or 7 guys who have started at the varsity level protecting him. But all new set of wide receivers, guys who have hardly played. I think only one played in some sort of varsity capacity last year. So all new guys there. And then defensively, a lot of new faces. There'll be really a heavy rotation, I think, at all positions until they figure out, who's going to fit and how it's going to fit with new defensive coordinator Ty Patrick coming in his first year there. So Belton, has to figure all these things out in a hurry as well. And it starts off with Westlake, coached by Todd Dodge, and everyone around here is familiar with him. 20-year coaching career that started at Cameron Yo and has kind of just gone up and up since then.
Except for that stint at North Texas.
Well, true.
We're not going to mention
right,
that.
Right,
That
yeah.
was just-
Yeah, that
was
brief
a little blip on
stay
the
there.
radar.
Yeah, but as far as his high school coaching career, not a whole lot have had much more success in the last couple decades. But Belton, it'll be interesting to see how the Tigers adjust to everything that's going on over there. This is the last season for Belton as the only high school football team in that town too. So a lot of dynamics going on there. But there, like Temple, I mean, there's some promise, there's some potential, and it's just kind of a matter of how they grow into this season.
One note I would add is, Westlake, Dodge has always been an offensive guy, but their defense is really stout. I mean, they play some great defense, and the guy that puts it all together is Tony Salazar, former All-American safety at UMHB, great player. And according to some, they think he's pretty much the coach in waiting at Westlake. I think Dodge might have, 2-3 years left, who knows, but Salazar's very highly thought of as a potential head coach, and so he's probably just biding his time and coaching a pretty hellacious defense until he can get that Westlake head coaching job, which is one that a lot of people would be interested in. But
and I think that defense allowed less than 10 points a game last year in getting to the 6A Division II state semifinals for the second year in a row.
And they have
Not
one of
able
the
to get there, but
coolest name guys, Sage Luther.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know what you're going to do against Sage Luther.
Skidmore, he said the one thing about that defense is they'll punish you.
Yeah.
They'll finish the plays no matter what. If it's a run play, a pass play, they're going to get after you, and the Tigers have to find a way to kind of combat that and deal with that.
And one thing that could be in Belton's favor is Westlake's breaking in a new quarterback,
right?
And like a competition, right?
QB competition.
Could be a few
apparently there's
jitters,
3 guys in that are up for the job, and who knows? With it being week 1, all 3 could see some time, but
And they might be looking over their shoulder, whoever's in there, knowing if I don't come out and play pretty well.
yeah. And Belton's defensive line, I will say, at the scrimmage last week against Vandegrift looked pretty good. I would say it was the brightest spot of that scrimmage was the defensive line and the aggressiveness that it showed with those players there. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I want to bring in Marcus. I'd like to see what he's thinking coming into this new season. What caught your attention when you're doing some of these interviews and such for these preview sections?
Well, I got to talk to several new coaches.
Yeah.
Of course, Howard out at Gatesville, Luke Howard, former quarterback out there. Got to witness pretty much about an hour or so of practice out there. He, first off, he kind of inherited a team that lost a lot of talent. And I think Kyle Cooper, the former coach, knew this a couple of years ago. He had talked a little bit off the record about, we got to probably get it done in the next couple of years. Because we have some talented kids coming up, but we have a lot of raw guys that are probably not quite at the level we need them to be. And we're going to have to either get up there quick or do something. And, of course, Kyle decided something was going to be somewhere else. It gave a great opportunity for Luke Howard, who, he'd kind of been looking for coaching jobs, and that's something he always wanted to do. And to get them ready, he's running a no-nonsense practice out there. It's like nonstop, go hard. And, he's not afraid to yell at his guys and get them in shape. And then
You think about where he came from, UMHB,
yeah,
so he's probably patterning it.
I mentioned is like,
works for them.
He was basically spent about 7 years there total as a graduate assistant. And that, he said, that program, the way it's run from the top, from even, the athletic directors down to even Karen Goff, Pete Fredenberg, all the assistants, they run such a tight ship there and have it so organized and so well done that you learn from it, and you can take a lot of the things you learn. And it's why a lot of people that go there, like you were saying, Salazar, they become successful at what they do at the next level.
Sure.
And, whether that pans out for Howard at Gatesville is yet to be seen, but, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And, I say you ran no nonsense, but at the end of that practice, of course, they run their offense a little bit, and then when that offense can get down the field and score a touchdown, pretty much they all celebrate. The coaches are in there with them, which is good to see. And then over at Bruce Valetti, Kyle Shopik, the older brother of former Baylor and Major League catcher Kelly Shopik, also his first opportunity to be a head coach. He's been in the coaching ranks for years. Talked to me about actually playing a Bruce Valetti game, and I mentioned that in the tab story, which you can, if you haven't got it, come by the office, pick up your preview sections. We ran them this week.
Only $1.
Only $1.
And, while we're at it, I was just looking at some of the ads in here. Great sponsors, a lot of long-time people. I'm getting hungry just looking at some of these ads. Wings, pizza, things.
And things?
Oh. And, Clint McKeska, longtime supporter of the Telegram, and pretty much an ad every year.
And one of the things we need is a sponsor.
Right.
Yeah.
And anyway, but I'm getting a little sidetracked. But yeah,
We don't have very high standards, so you hit us up and be our podcast sponsor.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to say, seriously, if you do read the tab, our preview sections, do support the sponsors that are in here because, they do support area athletes. And if you're reading this, obviously you want the best for your area athletes. So you're kind of on the same page. And there's a lot of good advertising in there. Some you probably don't want to run into, like a funeral home, a towing people. Those people you want to keep in. You at Arnie Funeral Home, great people out there, but hopefully you don't have to use them anytime soon.
No, they were dying to get into the paper.
But still great people out there.
My favorite ad is from
An incredible tangent, right?
Wes's Burger Shack. He says, "I support all of our local teams unless they are playing us." And by us,
Do
he
they have a
means
team?
he means Temple Wildcats. He says, "I bleed Wildcat blue." So
okay.
Wes is a good
he will accept all Belton traffic, maybe except for the week of the game.
Right.
But
Anyway, I was just going to say, Shopping, he kind of inherits a little bit different team. They have some talented kids coming back in Bruce Valetti, but they did not make the playoffs last year. And kind of strange. He didn't think that job would be open, but it did, and gave him the opportunity. And I think he's pretty excited, and he's kind of great guy. I mean, easy to talk to. Seems like the kids out there love him and respect him, which is always good. And then not really on my beat, but Greg Woolley went out to Holland, and then we all kind of watched a little video on this guy from Holland.
Yeah, the offensive lineman.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about this guy.
Giovanni Brown.
Giovanni Brown.
Giovanni Brown.
Giovanni, I know you read our tweets, you read our stuff, but I'm not going to get in your way. If I see you coming my way, I'm getting out of your way.
Yeah.
That was an impressive highlight.
I'm holding the door open. I'm laying down the red carpet.
He's a large individual.
And Bruce Villetti, you mentioned, that's where former coach J.B. Cheney ended up,
Yeah,
right?
J.B.
Was in
Cheney.
Holland. Yeah.
Yeah, he was from Holland. He went back there. He and Talbot have been friends for quite a while. And I think he probably just felt a little bit more comfortable there. You never know why people go back unless you can sit down with them. But, yeah, I mean, he's back there. I'm sure he's happy there. And
Speaking of the Hornets,
Yeah.
Right.
I'll tell you, the game to look out for way down the line, all the coaches said, we're just focused on week 1. Well, we're not.
yeah. Yeah, I'm actually focused on Christmas, to be
That's
honest
true.
with you already.
We have
The
that
game
luxury.
that's way off in the
Wintertime.
future for Holland is a game they almost got into last year, Mason, in round 3 of the playoffs. And Holland, if you ask them, they kind of kicked away a game in the second round against Wallace Brazos. I mean, it was a great game. It could have gone either way. They came up a little bit short. And Holland there were so many good juniors on that team that all those guys that really determined them to come back this year and kind of make amends. And they were that close to getting into a third-round game against Mason, which ended up just steamrolling to the state championship 16-0. But I think Holland really at least wants to get into that game and put their best up against Mason and kind of see if they're tough enough to handle those guys. So
just to be there.
yeah, so we're going to look ahead to late November and see if Holland can at least get into the game. And they're playing Mart in week 2.
Right.
That game will definitely help
that's
Holland
easy.
get ready. Yeah, no,
They've been working toward this for the last few years, for sure. I mean, it was 2 years ago where they were in the third round. It was Refugio, right? But
Yeah.
You could tell the Holland kids, they've been working out hard
Yeah.
ever since. You just look at him physically. Clay Cooper is just like a beast. I mean, he's
Looking like Thor.
Yeah. Ivan Drago even, but Zane Spinn, good all-around player. The Giovanni Brown kid is a monster. New, returning defensive lineman, new tackle on offense, and you could see him being maybe a high-level recruit if anybody can get out and actually see a small school kid in Holland. But just to look at a kid physically and the frame and the size, you would think he could do some stuff for
The
people.
scouts will see him eventually. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely, you're not going to stay hidden when you're that big. That's for sure.
No, the coverage has gotten too good with the videos and huddle
Right.
and
Yeah.
recruiting and camps. But and Brady Shelton's the other guy. By the way, returning district MVP.
Oh, yeah,
he's almost
just-
like
yeah, this
in the
is-
shadows, but
By the way.
he's a great player.
yeah.
And the only other thing I wanted to mention real quick was one other school that I went to was Granger, who has 7 home games this year, just because of kind of the way things worked out. Their first game was supposed to be at Snook, but Snook, I guess, is getting a new field, so they weren't ready. So they switched that game. Another team pulled out on them, so they are playing Buda Johnson, the new school in Buda Hayes, which right now is only going to field freshmen and sophomores. So Coach Walt Brock said they will never play them again. It's just a one-time thing, but they have to play them at home. So it turns out Granger ends up with 7 home games, which they're pretty excited about, and they've got a lot of talent coming back.
Would you say they're going to be home on the Grange?
I would not say that.
Boo!
I would never say that.
Boo!
And I might have to leave because you said that.
Say it loud for the people in the back.
Oh, man.
Man, I
You
got
guys are-
booed
you
worse.
guys are wild.
I got booed worse than Andrew Luck right there.
Oh,
That was not right.
Yes.
poor guy.
Not right.
Let's not forget maybe the best returning running back in the whole area, Zach Urbachik from Troy. Just a
I was just
junior,
going to
right?
say, let's get to
Yeah.
the Troy Salado
Yeah.
game that's Friday night, which will lead us into some discussion about 10-3A, Division One, go on other tangents and things like that. But
More ads.
Troy and old Zach is is back.
Zach is back.
And you spent some time with Troy in the offseason.
A little bit. Talked to head coach Ronnie Porter. Talked to starting linebacker, tight end Bo Workman. He's gotten a lot of attention from some colleges around the country. Everyone knows that he's a really good linebacker, especially for 3A. But playing in that 10-3A district, you go up against a lot of talent. So he's definitely stand out there. But then his move to tight end last season really only helped his recruiting ability. He really shined once he kind of got the hold of that. But Troy is. I think they kind of shocked a lot of people last year. I think they went, 9-3, something like that. They were expecting to be better than the season before, where they only won, I think it was 3 games. But I don't think anyone was expecting them to be that good last year. This year they might be even better. They're returning 22 seniors, just a boatload of talent across the board. They're going to be primarily a running team. They were heavy run last year. Coach Porter said, expect a lot of the same again this year. And when you've got a star like Zach Krabacik, I mean, why not? You've got a senior-heavy offensive line. They've been there. They've done that. They've got a couple guys on there, 3-4-year starters. So, I mean, they know how things run. And when you're blocking for a guy like Krabacik, where, a couple of the linemen told me, even if you miss a play or you miss a block, he can still make a play and just, take it all the way to the house, which makes their job even easier.
Don't you think last year the fact that Troy beat Salado in the season opener was kind of like the launching pad for their season?
I think so.
Because I think the previous year Salado shut Troy out and went on to a long playoff run.
Yeah.
And last year the tables kind of turned and Salado
didn't make the playoffs.
Mediocre season.
Yeah, Salado kind of lost a little bit last year. I mean, they were really good 2 years ago when they made that long playoff run. I think what really kind of made a lot of the Trojans believe that last year was special was when they beat Rockdale in Rockdale. Rockdale not as strong as their 2017 championship season, but I mean that's kind of as expected way it goes. But still, they weren't they weren't just a slump either.
They still make the playoffs.
Right, exactly. So I mean, for Troy to go down to Rockdale, pull out that win, that was the point where a lot of the players there started to believe that they could really do something special last season. They said that was the first win against Rockdale, period, for Troy, first in the program's history. So, again, just another big reason. But with Troy's, talent, all the talent returning from last season, you've got just a huge just amount of experience across the board, offensively and defensively. I mean, I would expect the Trojans to really give Cameron Yo a run for their money. Yo's going to be excellent as usual. I think they're preseason ranked number 4, again, like Josh said, whatever that's worth. But they're primed to have a big season. Troy's primed to have a big season. Rockdale's going to be strong coming back. They're just going to be better than last year. And then it really comes down to that 4th spot there in 10-3A Academy. They got it last year, so we'll see what happens there. They're probably going to be improved this season. Gerald, I believe, just kind of keeps getting better. They were vying for that spot for a while there. So who knows? You've got, I think we've talked about this before, but you've probably got Cameron Yo, Troy, and Rockdale for the top 3 there. And I think we've talked about it. None of us really see any team going undefeated through district there. Probably everyone's going to pick up at least one loss this coming year.
Yeah, obviously, injuries and other things of that nature could play a part in how that district goes. But yeah, I mean, if you manage to make it out of that district with an undefeated record, I mean, you're onto something because
right.
I don't think any of us see those 3 teams especially being. I don't want to say worse, but they're all looking to be even better than they were last year.
Rockdale
Yo made it to the 3rd round.
Year.
Rockdale, they played a lot of young guys last year and still made the playoffs and hung in with Grandview, which ended up going to the championship game, I believe.
Yeah.
And Troy beat Teague in the 1st round and then ran into Franklin in the 2nd. But I mean, it's and all those guys are returning, or all those teams are returning key guys on both sides of the ball. ball. So I mean, it's going to be a juggernaut.
Troy should be familiar with looking at that slot T offense then as they prepare for Salado.
Right, Salado,
here, that's the same thing Franklin
and
runs.
Salado, like a number of the teams we covered, they're coming into this year with a chip on their shoulder because, going 4-6 after 12-2, doesn't sit well.
Right.
Obviously last year was kind of, as you mentioned, you with Rockdale, you reached that pinnacle. And for a reason. I mean, you got guys there who maybe been in the system for a while, and then they graduate and move on. I mean, Salado kind of had that there last year, but they have some returners back. Alan Harris is a great coach. He's always going to have those guys motivated, and the slot T. I mean, when you run that, But I think for Salado,
is that what they're going to run this year? Have they decided on that?
yeah, that was a given. They got about 47 guys.
They're just not sure how many handoffs and fakes are going to go to each guy.
Yeah,
right.
Alan Harris, one of those coaches where even after a loss, I mean, you go talk to him, you just feel better after you talk to him.
but I mean, no, but you could still tell that he was bothered by 4-6. I mean, he turned that program around from nothing, and the expectation and the bar was raised, and he wants to meet that bar and exceed it every year now.
They've got the new field turf there at Eagle Field too.
A couple of teams actually.
Academy,
turf, but I don't know if the turf really is what he wants with that offense, but still, But I think for Salado, it's defense this year. Yeah. That was a big part of how they advanced to the regional final a couple years ago was defense, and I think that's going to be key for them this year as well as they get through that district. Because I think it's a 5-team district, right? That one as well. So I mean, they obviously got to beat some good teams, Liberty Hill being one of them. Yeah. But I think it's going to start with defense because that slot T, once it gets going, I think they'll be okay there. But they got to stop some people as well.
Yeah.
But so that'll be a good game at UMHB. That one's always a good one. Rivalry there between those two teams too. I don't know if it's picked up in the last couple of years compared to how it's been, but it seems like it's pretty heated.
Not too far apart, maybe 20, 25 minutes apart, right on I-35. And
got some passionate fan bases there.
Yeah.
It's not an old rivalry like Academy Rogers where it just goes back decades and decades, but it's kind of like you run into a team enough in a short period of time, it becomes a rivalry. So,
and
I was looking back and trying to find the records on that. I think Troy actually has the better record overall in that series, but it's not. You're right. I mean, it doesn't go way back. But
well, I mean, how long ago was Salado just a
pretty small
2A or 3A or whatever, right? So
And Troy had some years when they were in 3A when that would be the current 4A.
Right.
So they kind of had a disparity. I think they've just started to play each other often in the last 6 to 8, 10 years maybe. So.
Yeah. I just so we don't gloss over that 10-3A. I mean, we've talked about it, but I think one of those teams, if not maybe two, might be playing quite deep into the playoffs this year. Yeah. We've had before, right, where two teams like Rockdale and Yo, for instance, played in a regional final. I mean, that could happen again. Yeah. With two of those three teams. I don't know. I think we all kind of have a feeling about that. And then we mentioned Holland as well. Yeah. Anybody else that you guys think that we've, that might be playing deep, maybe third, fourth round?
Granger could, but it just depends on how that bracket falls.
And the injuries too.
Yeah.
Small school.
Well, and they're fairly young, correct? They graduated a ton of seniors last year.
They had some seniors, but they did have a lot of. I mean, it was kind of a well-balanced team.
Okay.
But they've got the main thing there is their running back Pickett that they've got to replace.
Right. And as far as our TAP schools, Central Texas Christian and Holy Trinity Catholic, I mean CTCS, they started off 7-0 last year.
They were 7-0, finished their last 4. They lost 3 of 4 to end the year. I mean,
and their big thing is when they get to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of just a mental game for them, honestly. Just talking to some of their players, talking to their coach Jeremy Callahan. Last year they kind of ran roughshod through district. They had a 2,000-yard rusher, Rylan Turner, really kind of surprised them and gave them a huge boost, obviously. But once they get to the playoffs the past few years, a couple players admitted that, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mental thing for us, and it's not just the football team, apparently. He said that, there's some guys that are on other teams, like, the basketball teams or whatnot, and something about the boys' sports over there, they just struggle to get out of that first round of the playoffs. So they believe if they can get out of that first round, from then on, sky's the limit. But if they can just get past their own mental stuff,
Yeah.
they should be good.
And with our 6-man teams, Holy Trinity Catholic and Buckholz, it's all about staying healthy.
Yeah.
Trying to get through the regular season with enough players to do some damage.
Field a team.
Yep. Yep. And we hope to get through our season as well.
Yeah.
We can't lose anybody early.
No, we're shorthanded as it is, so
Can't lose anybody to a paper cut. Or,
we'll be playing hurt,
Yeah.
or at least mentally fatigued.
true.
Something.
I had a hangnail for 2 weeks. I kept
Yeah.
on tweeting.
Keep going.
Good man, Daniel.
I'm trying.
Wasn't that how you gain respect in Texas? You tweet football things, and that's how people appreciate you or something.
Pretty
It
much.
seems like
Always tough to keep up with the
Right.
stats that very first game of the
Yeah.
season. Once you do it and you get into the mode, it's pretty.
people make living just tweeting things, which is incredible.
Yeah.
I've found that the amount of Twitter followers you have means the more love you have in your life.
Right,
So
yeah.
there's definitely a correlation there.
Hate it.
And just for anybody out there, it's okay to use proper spelling and punctuation on Twitter.
Yes.
Okay, you can use periods and spell words correctly.
OMG.
Yeah.
Hashtag
Yeah,
whatever,
it's-
Greg.
Feel free to. Yeah.
Greg, Willie,
I'll
whatever.
try to beat the drum on that.
Yeah. Well, yes, we're going to have tons of tangents this season, I'm sure.
Remember to look at Friday's newspaper. A lot of good preview,
Yep.
feature stuff.
Yep,
to
we'll
get you
have
ready
we'll
for the
have
first.
capsules of
Yeah.
all our area games taking place, and a couple weeks UMHB starts up, so we'll be talking about the Crusaders.
Will the Academy Rogers game make it into the Friday paper?
Oh, have no fear, Greg,
Okay.
it will.
That is the
We're
plan.
hoping for that quick game over at UMHB and over by 9:30, right?
Yep. It'll cut to front, but it'll be in there.
Yeah.
Quoteless special, probably.
Yep, yep, but it'll be in there.
I've already talked to both coaches. They have an understanding that 9:30 that's when the cutoff is.
Yep, yep. So anyway,
Always remember,
Hopefully.
go to the website too, because
Go to the
sometimes you'll get a
website.
more complete story on the web than you might in print. So, early deadline.
or just go to the website just in general,
Yeah.
because
There's stuff.
you like that we are able to put food on the table. So
I'm so hungry.
hope everyone comes back for week 2, because we'll be here. Goodbye.
Bye.